A kindergarten teacher becomes obsessed with one of her students, whom she believes is a child prodigy. A kindergarten teacher is struggling with her poetry class that she takes on Thursday nights. One day in her kindergarten class, she witnesses one of her students say his poem aloud. She writes it down and asks Jimmy's Nana, Becca, if Jimmy composes another poem that she promises to write it down and give it to Lisa.
Let's go. Becca, would you do me a favor? If he does this again, will you promise you'll write it down for me?
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Thanks. Hey, Jimmy. I really liked your poem.
Oh. All right.
This student's name is Jimmy. Over several weeks, whenever she catches Jimmy saying another poem, she will write them down and then read them to her poetry class, not telling them that she did not create them herself. Jimmy doesn't always let Lisa know about his poems, so Lisa gives her number to Jimmy, which is weird for two reasons. One, a kindergarten teacher shouldn't give her number to a student, and two, Jimmy has a phone at 5 years old.
And she's treating you like a baby. So, look, I took your cell phone from your backpack, if that's okay. And I'd like to put my number in and say you have it if you need it. I'm not going to put it in under Mrs. Spinelli because that is too long.
Giving her number to Jimmy had a high return on investment. Whenever Jimmy thinks of a poem, he calls Lisa, and even if Lisa is about to make love to her husband, and she will stop whatever she is doing to write it down. She obviously is starting to get obsessed with this kid. Lisa and Jimmy go to a poem club where writers read their poems. They do this when Jimmy's father specifically said no, because he does not want to risk Jimmy failing in the writing industry, and he wants him to live more practical, to make more money just like him, which causes his father to move Jimmy to a different school, away from Lisa. This causes Lisa to lure him out of his new school and basically kidnap him, driving him to a lake house to swim. Her plan was to publish a book full of his poems, which again was mostly motivated by her desire to be a part of something important. After swimming, Lisa tells Jimmy the plan, and this is where something very surprising happens. Jimmy locks her into the bathroom while she's taking a shower, then picks up the phone in their motel room, but does not dial any numbers. He then says, "Hello, I've been kidnapped. Can you help?" Lisa then tells Jimmy from the bathroom that if he wants to call the police, then he has to dial 911. Obviously, this is not good for her, but is good for Jimmy. Jimmy does what Lisa says, and the police ask him where he is. Again, Lisa goes against herself, but helps Jimmy. Lisa tells Jimmy their address, and the movie ends with Jimmy in the front seat of a police car, implying that Lisa is arrested for kidnapping. Has passed, put on these headphones. So that was synopsis. Now let's move on to my opinions and some takes on this. So first off, I want to say the best quote to describe this movie is on the cover of the movie, okay? Quote is, "Rippling with psychological complexity." It's perfect. It's very complex. It's not like a lot of movies where it's just mainstream media bull crap and the Hollywood sugarcoating and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? And the actor was really good. The first half of the movie was very cringy, to be honest. Just the way that she talks to certain people made me make this face. But the second half was very interesting with the choices that she makes and the awareness of the seriousness and craziness of her actions that she has. The movie also constantly made me think of whether or not what she is doing would be morally or ethically right or wrong in the long run, until of course she kidnaps the kid, which reached the ultimate threshold of morality and ethics. Throughout the movie, she slowly crosses the line more and more, with lying to multiple parents and school staff to again kidnapping, until she finally reaches her own set of boundaries, where she surrenders herself both literally and figuratively. guiding Jimmy directly to justice for herself, with Jimmy opening the window of wrongdoing for the police. What I mean by this, she gave Jimmy the right information to call the police and tell the police their address. She did this purposefully. Now let's move on to point 1. Lisa's obsession. Lisa's problem is that she is obsessed with Jimmy to the point where she will drop anything to see him or talk to him, even if that means missing out on seeing her own husband or kids. Lisa is obsessed with Jimmy because she has a desire to be a part of something important. You can see this when she's constantly trying to convince her kids to do something more intellectual or artistic, like the time when she tells her daughter to pick up the camera again, and when she strongly discourages her son to join the military. On paper, it might seem like she's a normal parent wanting her kids to do great things, but this is not entirely the case. She wants them to do what she wants them to do more than what they want to do. If her daughter doesn't want to be a photographer, and she doesn't have to, even if she's good at it. And if her son wants to be in the military, then that's what he wants to do. Lisa, being an over-controlling parent, is only one piece of evidence that she has a dying need to be a part of something important by doing it herself or leeching off of someone else. And what's even worse is she does the same thing to Jimmy, who isn't even her kid. Not only that, but he's only 5. This is a good segue to the second reason why she is obsessed with Jimmy. The second reason is she wants to give Jimmy the recognition that she thinks he deserves and that she thinks is what he would want to do if only Jimmy in the world knew how great he is. She compares Jimmy to Mozart, which is probably true. He might be greatly gifted in writing poems. But the problem is she talks about how Mozart would have people at his attention 24/7. So she thinks that Jimmy should have something similar, not spoiling, but similar. She then goes against what Jimmy's own father says and takes him to a poem club for him to present his poems, and to give Jimmy the recognition that she thinks he will want. Let's move on to my next point. My next point is, would Jimmy's older self regret calling the cops? This movie only has one scene with Jimmy's father, but we know from Becca that he owns a nightclub, so he is rich and successful. In this one scene where Lisa meets Jimmy's father, he tells us a lot. He says that he thinks less of his brother because of his career. He says he doesn't want Jimmy to end up like his brother, correcting spelling mistakes, making $50,000 a year. Of course, Lisa believes that Jimmy would make a lot more than $50,000, but his father doesn't buy it. Although his father does like that his son is smart, he also wants his son to focus on making money rather than reaching his full potential in his gift, which is perfectly reasonable. For instance, it is risky to have the chance of ending up like his brother. Enough about Jimmy's father. Let's talk about the prodigy himself. He's 5 years old. He likes to do normal things. He is mostly raised by his nanny Becca, because his father is always working and his mother is in a whole nother state. Sometimes Jimmy has poems that he randomly says aloud, whether someone can hear him or not. We also know that his uncle comes to his house sometimes to read poems together. As I said in the synopsis, Jimmy does start calling his kindergarten teacher whenever he thinks of a poem. We don't really know if he does this to get it off his chest, or because she told him, or he likes the validation. But again, he's only 5 years old, so there's not really much importance in the aspect of why he does this. What if Lisa's plan worked out? What if Jimmy never called the police and was like Mozart via Lisa? Jimmy would most likely become a world-renowned artist for his poetry. The ultimate question is, would he actually want this? Would he be glad that Lisa brought him to his true potential? The reason I bring up this question is because of how powerful the last line of the movie is. I'm going to repeat the last part of my synopsis. The movie ends with Jimmy in the front seat of the police car, implying that Lisa is arrested for kidnapping. Up to this point, Jimmy would tell Lisa every poem that came to his mind. Jimmy tries to tell the police that he has a poem, but the police walks away from the car. Jimmy repeats himself, "I have a poem," and the credits roll. The writers are trying to convey that, although justice was served to Lisa. Jimmy indeed will never reach his true potential and his talent in writing poems. In conclusion, I give this movie a 9 out of 10 in production value. In other words, I can admit this is a very good movie, but in my own interests, I give it a different rating. The reason I think this is a good movie is because it has great acting. The main character is played by someone who is apparently related to the person who plays Nightcrawler. I think this movie is a good movie because of the pacing. It doesn't go too far in the plot and story. In my own opinion and my own interest in this movie, I give it a 7 out of 10. This is because it wasn't sci-fi, but I did like how it made me think. Thank you for watching.